Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I want to talk to you today about the combat system in the Broken Empires role-playing game. So combat in this game is dangerous and definitive, but not necessarily lethal. When I swing a sword at you and I connect and I do a wound to you, that's not abstracted away in hit points. That wound has a very specific effect and it has immediate repercussions which could change the tactical outcome of that situation, right? So I'm not going to get into all the weeds about how combat works, but for those of you who've been keeping track of things, you'll know that in this game you roll percentiles, obviously, and it's blackjack, so you want to roll under your skill but high. And that tens die of your roll counts as your success levels. It can be modified by other things, but that's the base. So if my skill is 50 and I roll a 42, I've succeeded because I rolled under, and I've succeeded with 4 success levels or SLs because I rolled that 4. Now, my attack roll is going to be mitigated by the defender's roll, okay? So the defense is going to reduce the quality of my attack, but we'll get to that. First of all, yes, there's surprise in this game, and yes, if you attack with surprise, that is really good. There's a lot of advantages to doing that. There is an initiative system. It is round by round. The initiative system is based on a die type. The players have a die type that ranges between D4 and D12, and they roll that against an enemy's static initiative. And if there are several players who go all before an enemy, then it doesn't matter what specific order they're in. So for example, if there's 3 players and an enemy, okay, and the enemy's static initiative is 4, let's say. So one player rolls a 7, another one rolls a 6, and another one rolls a 1, okay? Well, the guy who rolled the 1, he's gonna be after the enemy because the enemy's on 4. The ones who rolled the 6 and the 7, they're gonna be before the enemy because the enemy's on 4, but which specific order they go in, it's totally up to them. So there might be tactical reasoning for that, right? Like it's more important that you go first before I do, and so you can make that discussion. Initiative is re-rolled every round, but it's only 1 die, and it's very, very quick, because again, the enemies do not roll, they have static initiative. When you take your turn, you can basically do a move and do a thing. What is that thing? Any proactive action. That could be an attack, it could be rummaging through your pack to produce a thing, it could be reloading a bow, a crossbow, whatever the case is. You can move 1 zone, because yes, there are zones in this game, it's not a hex-based game. Zones are just an abstracted area of whether or not I'm close enough to hit the guy. Hit the enemy is essentially what it boils down to. Zones have descriptors though. And those descriptors can be used tactically by the players if they choose. They don't have to spend any meta points. It's not like Fate. You don't have to pay a Fate point to use a descriptor of a zone. It's just there. You can take advantage of it, typically once per engagement, but it depends on the situation. When you take your turn, as I said, you can move up to 1 zone and do a thing. That thing you do is very often an attack. So an attack is rolling under your skill, but high, because it is a blackjack system. The opponent's defense mitigates yours, so any net SLs you have is going to do damage, right? Or is going to be a successful attack. So if I rolled 42 and you rolled 12, I succeed with 3 SLs, okay? Providing we both rolled under our skills. Now, my weapon damage is static, and it adds to those SLs, and that 2-hit roll tells you a lot. It tells you, did I hit? It tells you how badly did I hit? It tells me where did I hit? And it tells me what kind of combat maneuvers can I perform on that hit. So if I hit you, I already know how the damage is done, right? My SLs plus my weapon damage minus the armor in the location that I've hit, but how do you know the location? There are no extra charts or tables in this. I mean, there's one very simple hit location table, but it's right on your character sheet and it's dead simple. The ones die of your roll determines the hit location. So when I roll, I compare mine to yours, and I know, did I hit you? Did I succeed? How many SLs net did I get? What's the damage I'm doing? Where am I doing that damage? Then I compare that damage to any armor you might have, and whatever's left over becomes a wound. And at that moment, you have to make a wound die roll, which could be modified by your toughness. And if that wound die roll fails, then that location is incapacitated. So it doesn't necessarily mean that people are gonna die all the time, but it does mean that fights can be over quick with a solid, definitive blow, okay? So this is just the basics. I'm giving you the quick basics over this. And those of you who've been watching season 4 of Me, Myself, and I, you will already be familiar with all of this stuff. But that is essentially how that works. Now, I can also use my success levels on combat maneuvers. And combat maneuvers are all kinds of things. They might knock you prone, they might knock the weapon out of your hand, they might compel you to surrender, they might unbalance you to give you a penalty on your next action. If it's a defensive maneuver, I might be able to do a riposte, or I might be able to disengage from you if I succeed really, really well. These combat maneuvers are based on the quality of your outcome. So if you've got 3 SLs, that means you can pick any 2 combat maneuvers as long as each one of those is 3 or less. That's how that works. And most of the time, there's no resistance to these. Like if I hit you in the leg and I do a prone combat maneuver, which is based on my weapon, by the way. The type of weapon I use is going to determine the ease or difficulty of those maneuvers in most cases. So if I do manage to knock you prone, if I spend my successful hit against you and I use that combat maneuver to knock you prone, you're going down. Boom, you're knocked prone. Now, yes, you can have a specialty or a talent that allows you a resistance against such things, but that's more character creation and less combat. So that's essentially how it works. Wounds are a whole separate thing. Wounds can kill you. If you get wounds over the lethality level of a hit location, that's when you might have to start rolling the death die, and that's when things get really nasty. Wounds can also become infected, and that's when you have to roll the infection die. That can be really nasty. Infection can kill you, especially on the road, so you have to be careful. Having a decent healer in your party is very, very important. Notice I said healer and not cleric. Clerics do exist in the game. They're called Godbound, but all you need is like a physician, someone who's really good at the heal skill. They should be able to help you not to die from gangrene and various related illnesses like that. But yeah, the combat system is robust, but it moves quickly. This is really the heart of what I'm talking about when I talk about simulation light. It is a simulationist game in that it represents every blow, every parry, every wound that is struck and achieved on an opponent. But it's light in that we don't bog down the combat with so many details that it takes forever to get through it. So a combat exchange in the game is really 2 rolls. You don't roll for damage, you don't roll for hit location. That's all contained in the attack roll and the defense roll. So things move a lot quicker. And the consequences for being hit have an immediate effect. This isn't just I do hit points, you're fine, you're dead. That's not at all how this game works. So you can lose a fight without being killed. And I think that's really important because that allows so many more tactical options for the players to deal with an opponent. Because sometimes, what if you don't want to kill the enemy? For all kinds of reasons. Well, this game gives you very specific options that anybody can do. You know, you don't have to have some special ability to do it. Anybody can do it as long as you have the skill and the dice rolls to make that happen. Now, there are critical results and critical failures. That's just basically if you roll doubles under or doubles over, that's going to be a critical result. Also, if you roll your skill exactly, that's a critical result, a critical success. But they're not insta-win buttons. They don't immediately mean that you win or lose. It just means that you gain +3 success levels, which doesn't sound like a lot, but believe me, that can really change the course of a battle. So a critical result is important, but it's not like, oh my God, I got a critical, now I immediately win the world, right? So there's all kinds of other little details in here, like attacking a prone opponent or reach weapons. Reach is accommodated for in this system, but it's very, very simple, and I really like how it works. Basically, if you're charging someone with reach on you, they're going to get a bonus based on the reach score of that weapon, but they also get a free attack if you're charging them. You don't have to charge someone to attack them. You can move in and attack, but then you forfeit that extra bonus you get from the charge. So there's all kinds of little tactical things you can do in order to maximize your chances of survival. In terms of weapons and armor, weapons all have their own things they can do. So there's a bit of weapon porn going on. Armor mitigates damage per location. So if I get hit in the left arm for 5 damage, but I have 3 armor points, I'm going to take a 2-point wound in that arm. You can actually sunder the armor. You can actually have your armor shatter to avoid a wound, but then the armor's destroyed. That's very much inspired by the One Ring as well. You can do the same thing with the shield. You can split the shield if you want, but of course that's a one-off thing. Once it's gone, and it simulates destroying the shield and damaging armor without having to track a bunch of armor hit points and things like that, which are just really niggly, and I don't really like doing that stuff. Armor and shields obviously encumber you, and encumbrance eats into your total resolve, which is your ability to mitigate your rolls with extra bonuses and things, so you don't want that. Resolve is crucial for a spellcaster, but we're not, of course, talking about spellcasting because that will be another video, which is forthcoming. So that's a little taste of combat. That's how it works. Again, if you want to see it in action, you can watch really some of the later episodes of season 4 on Me, Myself, and Die, because the first episode I'm still using a phase system, which I was playing with, and while phase systems work perfectly fine, it didn't do much for me in this particular case. So I decided to go to a more traditional initiative system. although it is still unique, right? You still roll your die type against a static enemy initiative. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with this game, but there are some interesting, unique things that have come out of it. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, so that's a little taste of combat, and I will see you next time on the next video. Thanks for joining me. Ciao for now.